Hellmaster EX. This award-winning system features the first single-engine joystick with digital electric steering and new autopilot capability. See Hellmaster EX in action at a Yamaha Outboard dealer or visit YamahaOutboards.com.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
Pop, pop goes the weasel. Mad mantis is what the young guns were using to ferret out a yellowfin from a skipjack blitz at the Hudson last Friday. Fish on for John Cavalier from the bow of the Mushin, with Nick DeGennaro and Max Lichtig launching the topwater offerings out front. John hooked up, capably passed the rod back down the port side to the waiting hands of George Shower, our Pocono Outdoors guy, to fight in the cockpit of Captain Alan Lee's 44-foot Henriquez. Didn't light him up on Friday, but with 3 yellowfin in the box, 2 on sterling wide trackers, 1 on a surface popper, and a whole mess of tasty tilefish, we did well enough. And from the radio chatter, it was indeed a tough fight heading into another tropically afflicted weekend at the canyons off the Jersey coast. Chunk, jig, pop, and troll. The action is here at the Jersey Shore from the Hudson to the Baltimore. You can head east to the Hudson, as George and I did Friday, 90 miles east of Manasquan, but there are mid-range options as well for those looking for bluefin tuna in the days ahead. I'm Jim Hutchinson with the New Jersey Delaware Bay edition of the Fisherman magazine, your weekly video fishing forecast for today, August 22nd, 2024, heading into the fourth weekend, the fourth full weekend of August fishing. A lot more to talk about offshore-wise this week. It's the season, 'tis the season, of course, for the Tuna Express as it continues along the Jersey Shore at this point. Now, going back to my Mushin trip on Friday and our video from last Thursday, if you recall, we spoke about the chunk bite had begun to turn on. That's really that night bite, later hours of darkness. You can get there and start the chunk through all hours of dark. Swordfish, yellowfin on the chunk. We left at 11 p.m. Thursday night, got into the chunking 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, had a couple of hours of unsuccessful chunking into first light, but then went on the troll with the wide trackers. Dave DeGennaro was first up with the fighting belt. And once those wide trackers and side trackers are out, even this blind squirrel can get on a nut from time to time. But the highlight is the surface action, finally finding those skipjack tuna on the top with a few yellowfin underneath. And that's the type of action that can really get you fired up on the offshore grounds, the tuna grounds. That's where those Stellas, Advanced Stalls, the Penn Authorities, the Okuma Makaira, those big spin reels with maximum drag pressure comes in quite handy. And the big poppy style poppers too, the Mad Mantis, the Nomads, those Chug Norrises, the Shimano Orca poppers, or the Azori Mag poppers, particularly when you upgrade, think going from your striper fishery to your tuna fishery. It's a great time of year on the offshore grounds in terms of transitioning to the chunk, like I said, trolling at first light until you find the madness, and then tossing those surface offerings. Now, in this week's digital edition of the Fisherman magazine, New Jersey, Delaware Bay, we had that white marlin caught by the Jersey Donut crew while fishing the mid-range grounds for bluefin. We spoke about that a few weeks ago. That's on this week's digital cover. Now, in this week's open boat, Jenni had a chance to talk to Duncan Hathaway about this amazing white marlin catch on the mid-range bluefin grounds, proving that you never know what you're going to encounter on the saltwater grounds until you put a hooked offering out into the water.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Open Boat. Today we're at Garden State Marina with my good friend Duncan. You guys may recognize Duncan as he was just on the New Jersey cover of the Fisherman magazine, the August 19th edition, a well-deserved cover with an even crazier catch, a white marlin on a popper within cell range. Now, give me those numbers, No, I'm just kidding, stop it. Don't ask for numbers, find your own fish. But Duncan has the amazing fish of a lifetime story that he's going to share with us on this week's Open Boat.
Yeah, so pretty much we were bluefin tuna fishing like everyone else. There was a local bite, little inshore, and decided to make a move because it was a slow day on the bluefin grounds. And then we came across a marlin feeding on bait on the surface. Tom found it. We yelled, grab a popper, Jesse and I. Tom threw a popper in there, 1, 2 pops. He was on a white marlin, which was pretty sick. And then, yeah, we were tight. The thing was airing out, pretty crazy. I never caught a marlin before, don't know how to bill fish whatsoever. So I hopped on Google, tried to identify the fish. I was thinking blue marlin, black marlin at the start. Used Google Images, saw it definitely wasn't a black, identified it as a white, and then found out the regulations on white marlin just in case the thing died. And yeah.
That's an awesome story. I mean, you well deserve this fish. You go out there, you put your time in. I'm still geeking out about it because I saw the videos and everything, and we're going to include the videos in this open boat. And you have your souvenir here too with you. You're keeping it as a remnant of the fish, and you did a nice. I'm going to butcher the name, but the gaitaku of it too, right?
Yeah, we got Mr. Nice Gaitaku. I think I'm butchering the name too.
It's okay.
Dan up north, he did a great job with it. We're hoping to pick him up here soon. And yeah, we're excited on it. We want to honor the fish the best we could since it came up exhausted. It was tail wrapped. The popper had probably 4 trebles in there, or hook points in there. And he was pretty dead, so we made the tough decision to kill it. Once it got up here, we realized we weren't going to be able to release it and let it survive. So yeah, honoring the fish the best we can.
The one thing I can say about summertime fishing is it's like the Forrest Gump quote, a life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And this is the perfect case for you, Duncan, and for anyone watching this open boat. Summer is still happening. You got the dog days, and you still have a chance to catch some wild species when you're targeting something completely different. But Duncan, I know you got a trip tomorrow and you got to get ready, so catch him up, and we'll catch you guys on next week's open boat.
Things are heating up in the Coastal Kayak Clash. This week we had 3 entries that made some waves on the big board. Mark Carlson starts us off with a really nice fluke at 26.5 inches, landing him in 2nd place for the category. Todd Treones has come on with a vengeance, and he scored again this week with his 3rd place tog at 19.5 inches. Justin Oser keeps the train rolling with a 19.5 inch category leading bonito, adding some meat to his tournament lead. The top 3 of the leaderboard looks like this. Todd Treones holds 3rd place with 7 points. Bob Wagner clings to 2nd with 8 points. And Justin Oser increases his lead to 12 points. Remember, you need to be a subscriber to the Fisherman magazine to be part of the Coastal Kayak Clash.
One thing worth noting to that topwater action, it's just not 90 miles out nor 15 miles out, but even inside the line or close to it at this point. Brad Weil was on vacation last week running his 18-foot Parker out of Shark River Inlet, 70 to 80 feet of water, about 3 to 5 miles out, found the bonito blitzing on small baits. Now, Brad and crew got into all that bonito, all the bonito they could want, using half-ounce epoxy jigs and small plastics, even naked jig heads. No bait. No lure on that, just the naked jig head, as these bones were on small baits. In that, say, 5 to 10 mile or slightly more sweet spot, you're apt to find the bluefin this week as well. After 2 consecutive weekends of questionable conditions with Tropical Storm Debbie, followed by Hurricane Ernesto, this weekend looks pretty tasty for folks looking to press outside the inlets. Inshore forecast, a mix of west, northwest, southwest, and yes, south winds too, according to the midweek update from NOAA Weather. And I have heard of false albacore breaking just a little bit beyond casting distance from shore. So with those westerlies, any morning westerlies that we're looking at for the next few days, it could be quite nice if you're carrying those thin jigs and the epoxies. Offshore, equally good with mostly variable winds forecast as of Wednesday, looking at Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from the Hudson to Baltimore. So if you're running and gunning this weekend, perhaps tossing baits along the lumps, looking for some bonito or false albacore, or hunting for those mid-range bluefin out to some canyon yellowfin. Of course, it does look like this is a good weekend for that. Well, I was offshore last week. Long Island's editor, Matt Broderick, was doing a little mid-range bluefin hunting around the Block Island area with Captain Connor McLeod. Connor has a great article in that July edition of the Fisherman, or the August edition of the Fisherman magazine, I'm sorry. August edition of the magazine, Connor's article on working your way through a finicky tuna bite. He's got some good bluefin tuna jigging advice in this short report that Matt has. Solid tips for bluefin jigging from Block Island all the way down to the Jersey Shore.
Some of the staffers from the Fisherman magazine, along with myself, got the opportunity to fish on the new North Coast 41.5 HT. It's a 41-foot fishing and luxury boat. Awesome boat. Got out there and hey, that Block Island tuna bite, they didn't lie about it. We didn't lie about it either because we had some tuna. But even more, Captain Connor, he was captain on that trip. He's gonna give us some tuna tips from how to catch those tuna south of Block Island. Connor, what do you got for us?
So the technique I like to use for jig and pop for these wreck-sized bluefin, because I have a 31 downy, so I go slow. So I don't do a whole lot of hammering around, chasing after fish. I try and find fish isolated and work them carefully. So I need context clues, to find these fish. If we don't have tons of whales, tons of life, tons of obvious signs, I can't just hammer around the ocean, when a buddy calls me. So I have to get creative. So I look for oil slicks a lot. I look for tuna chicks on the surface, shearwater birds, kind of cruising above the waves. Any signs of life above the water will give me clues what's happening under the water. So the specific technique we like to do, I always set up at least 2, sometimes 3 dead stick rods. That's usually a Ronzi with a fast action tip. So what happens is you stick that rod right in the rod holder. Depending on the tide, you try and set it at different depths, and you just let the boat's movement kind of manipulate the movement of that jig. And that gets a lot of bites. That's almost always the best biting jig on the boat. The more we have that, we do a couple other styles. We do some speed jigging, for fish that want to come up quick on the jig, and we do some bottom sweeping or slow up and down jigging for more of a lazier bite, or if I have older clients or guys that aren't that accustomed to jigging, they work it slow, while some more advanced guys can jig a little faster. And that kind of covers different water columns, different speeds, different techniques. I'll keep an eye on the sounder,
I'll do that.
And all the pieces kind of come together. I'll try and get some jigs up at the thermocline, wherever that is in the water column, or if we're marking fish lower, we'll try and cover where the fish are and give it our best shot throughout the whole water column. So when we hook up on the jig, on the metal jig, I say the same thing every time. Reel until you can't reel anymore. Almost to the point where you reel until the drag starts taking off. Because so many times these fish come up or they swim at the boat, and you might feel the weight, you might get tight, but we haven't set the hook yet because they're swimming up. So you just reel until you can't reel anymore. It finally gets tight, it knows it's tight. Then you can give a couple hook sets and really knock it in the back of their mouth, you know what I mean? Most important thing, reel, get tight. So the end game is a super important part of this whole process. Once the fish gets up tight, we have a little bit of line, all right? So there's all that load and force is on a much smaller diameter line now, okay? So odds of terminal failure are higher now. Odds of break-offs from chafing, hitting the boat, etc. can happen. So we got to have someone on the wheel who's good, able to spin the boat if we get near the propeller or danger zone. We have to have someone who's good on the rod, able to move around the boat if need be. And really, everyone kind of has to work together. And the final blow is the gaff. You get the gaff in the fish. Take your time. So many times I've seen people reach down, try and force something, they nick the line, they get a bad gaff in the tail, it messes the fish up and you lose the fish. Take your time. Once they're pinwheeling around the boat, we're in control. Let's get a good shot, confidently gaff them away from the line.
2 weeks with no dreamboat entries. Another tropical system passing by put a damper on things. The leaderboard still stands at Scott Waterman with 17 points, Brian Zembreski with 13 points. Tied with Brian is Anthony Savino. Make 2024 your year to win. Compete in the Fisherman Magazine's Dream Boat Fishing Challenge. It's our subscriber-only season-long region-wide multi-species fishing competition to win a brand new Yamaha-powered Steigercraft 21 center console. Go to thefisherman.com to check out all the amazing prizes. Remember, this contest is for Fisherman Magazine subscribers only. Catch fish and enter to win. Sign up today.
So do you say fluke or flounder? Let's go with summer flounder for diplomacy's sake, shall we? But by all accounts, that bite has improved quite a bit out front as water temperatures have come up to more summerly conditions with the wind not so much out of the south. Summer's still a prevailing south, but we are having some a little mix-up in terms of those weather windy patterns. And there's a lot of bait now in the ocean waters and stacking up inside many of the inlets here at the Jersey Shore. So hopefully we'll see a banner end this screaming towards the September 25th, 26th closure of summer flounder because it's been pretty dismal so far, that's for sure. But again, the inshore forecast looks good. So if you're prepared to lose a few bucktails and rigs on the snags off the beaches, whether it's from outside the Sandy Hook area, the Rattlesnake, all the way down to Cape May, the old grounds, and some of those Cape May reef sites, this is going to be a good time for that. Dennis Portalayton, he reported a few from the Sandy Hook surf. He called it, quote, productive and quality fish in an email to me earlier this week, said top of the outgoing to the middle was the ticket. Another terra firma surfcaster, Dr. Adam Aguiar, sent that peanut bunker video from the Central Jersey area that you just saw before when I'm talking about all the baits inside the inlets. And I know that folks are now catching mullet for sale at the tackle shop, so the mullet have to be out in the creeks as well. But Adam's been banging fluke from shore whenever he gets a chance, and the fact that he releases all of his fluke sandwiches, which I find somewhat disconcerting, but that's good news for folks looking to score because every fluke that Adam catches, keeper or not, goes back. So anyway, you've got that. You've also got Kingfish in the surf, predominantly central Jersey, southern Ocean County, all of Ocean County, down into South Jersey and the beaches of Cape May County. Simple high-low rig, maybe a pompano rig with small bits of fish bite or clam or bloodworm for those looking to score. And of course, the croaker action in the back has still been hot from Great Bay South all the way down into Delaware Bay as well. Some croakers, some weak fish in the mix as well. You have that one tog, one keeper allowed in New Jersey right now. They're biting on the jetty rocks. The folks in Sea Isle Bait and Tackle reported that M. Gemstone stuck a blackfish on terra firma just a few days ago. That Sea Isle crew reminds us that if you're putting the crab jigs down for tog, you also have the opportunity for some triggerfish, although triggerfish are more likely to bite small hooks with the fish bites or small pieces of baits, but you can also get those sheepshead around the rock piles as well. More on catching those sheepshead in that August edition. This will be the last time I'm talking about this edition, so if you don't have this particular magazine and Bob Stavola's tips on catching sheepshead, pick it up, because it's only a few more days before we go to print with September. That's this Sunday. Next week, we'll talk more about the September edition of the Fisherman Magazine. So yeah, I'm stuck at my desk a lot this week, banging out the late editorial needs that we have for that latest edition. That said, with all that bait beginning to gather and stack up in local waters and a couple of cooler nights this week, it's about time to start throwing those small poppers, the paddle tails along the sod banks, see if we can't get a score with a few schoolie stripers on the prowl. You'll see me working the sod banks, hopefully sometime this week, because I do know that some folks have been catching them along the sod banks at night, at dusk. The stripers are in, especially if you get closer to the inlets where you have some of the cooler ocean water temperature, the cooler ocean water coming in on the incoming tide. So a good opportunity for you to enjoy some catch and release striper action this time of year. One fishery that has little to do with catch and release is deep drop tile fishing. Captain Allen Lee, his Mushin on Friday. He pulled out the Shimano Talica 2s, the old man tackled tuna bombs. For weight, we rigged the chicken style rigs up with what do we use? We had bonito, false albacore, and skipjack that we used some fresh pieces. Dropped 400 feet or so down for some tasty tile fish, blue lines and goldens. There was a point where Dave DeGennaro offered me $5 to crank his reel in whenever he thought his bait was stolen. Lazy, isn't he? Lazier still, I didn't take advantage of that $5. Justin at Allen's Dock said the Clayton family got out for some tiles recently, ostensibly out of Little Leg Inlet. If you look really closely at that photo, I'm wondering if the youngest Clayton there was a little arm weary as well, having to crank up those golden tiles from 60 fathoms. Or perhaps, like me, she just doesn't like cleaning fish. It's a possibility. But tilefish have become a big game saver on the offshore grounds. I had mentioned this recently because I talked to a few shop folks. I talked to Jason at Fisherman Supply. He says a lot of folks, depending on when they go out, they might start their day with tiles so they have something in the box before they go out on the tuna troll, or end the day. We did a halftime trip aboard Mushin on Friday to make sure that we had some tilefish before we went back at those tuna. Brian Page was out with Dave Schellenberger the other day, found the tuna elusive, ready to adapt and improvise, hit some tilefish marks that they had previously noted at the Wilmington Canyon, and they got into several tilefish, which I will tell you, if you've never had fresh tilefish, that is about the tastiest fish you will find in the region. Yes, it's better than tautog, it's better than black sea bass, trust me when I say that. And of course, as Brian told me, it proved that fishing, persistence and versatility are key to success. I've done a little bit of freshwater fishing in the past with my friend George Schauer, the Pocono outdoors guy from the Delaware River out to Beltsville. So it was good to see him come out on Friday to get a little salt in his socks and break that tuna cherry. For more on that trip and our local freshwater fishery in the tri-state region, let's head west and we'll talk to George.
Well, hey, thanks, Jim. You know, I'm still reeling from that trip this past week out with the folks on the Mushin. Captain Alan Lee and his crew, George and John, really appreciate everything those guys did with us. It was a fantastic trip, and it won't be forgotten for a long time. Real quick, let's check in with Captain Alan to see what he said about our trip that morning.
Today we're tuna fishing in the Hudson Canyon. So we start off our day at about 3 in the morning, chunking, looking for yellowfin at night. And as the sun came up, we switched over to trolling. So we're covering some ground, looking for fish, looking for signs of fish, trolling around. And so far we had one good bite and we're looking for some more. And we'll keep at this for a while, and then we'll switch over to some tilefish a little later on today.
Again, I can't say thank you to Captain Allen enough. Great group of guys out there. Really looking forward to getting out with those folks again. Also want to take a quick thanks to Dave DeGennaro for setting that whole trip up. It was a great weekend. And again, be out there to do it again real soon. Now guys, back here in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, a lot of things going on here. Really some good fishing after those storms blew through again. We had a new PB for Chris Matchison. He's down there catching crappies again in South Jersey. Really good. He got a 16.5 incher, a 4-pound line. He's just getting out really early. Right at dawn has been the key to catching those big old crappie. Chris, I may have to come join you down there in South Jersey for a few of them. Also, we had Charlie Roberts, good friend of mine, out on the Delaware River. He's been out catching some beautiful flatheads as well. Some good fishing there on the Delaware. You can never count that out, especially for those flatheads. Now, staying on the Delaware, we have my good friend Tim Keebler, a great guide up there. Well, he was out catching some beautiful stripers. You don't think of these big stripers holding around this time of year, but they really do. But you got to check your spots very carefully. They're in selected areas, and Tim really seems to have them dialed in. And a nice, beautiful striper there for you, Tim. Great work. Now, another one, guys, and here's a nice little story with a very young Mia Page. She was out new to fishing, and she was out this year, and she scored big on Chester Creek here in Aston, PA. Her father, Brian, took her out for an introduction for some fishing, just to get into a little bit of trout fishing. Well, she scored big with a couple beautiful trout for her first time. I don't think you can go wrong there. And I'll tell you what, I think we'll be seeing a whole lot more from Mia in the future months ahead. So looking forward to that. Guys, I think we finally have a nice dry weekend ahead of us. So fishing should be really good. I hope you get out and get on them. But from Pennsylvania, I'm George, your Pocono Outdoors guy.
Now is the best time to buy a boat at the Jersey Shore Boat Sale and Expo. Fishing boats for inland and offshore. Tons of center consoles. September 27th through 29th, Shoretown Ballpark, home of the Jersey Shore Blue Claws. Tickets at jerseyboatexpo.com.
Life is better with a boat.
So if you've been watching our weekly video fishing forecast on Roku, stop. Now, since I can't operate my remote control without the kids around, and I really don't have any idea what Roku is, I'll have Tim Smith explain to you what I mean.
For our viewers of the weekly video fishing forecast who watch us on our Roku channel and listeners who may hear us on iTunes as a podcast, we have an important announcement to make. As of August 22nd, that's today, the Fisherman magazine will no longer be supporting our channel on Roku. With the popularity of YouTube and the ability to read and make comments, along with the fact that most streaming devices and smart TVs support YouTube, maintaining a separate channel on another device just doesn't make sense. If you have a Roku, don't fear, you can still watch the weekly video fishing forecast on the YouTube app on Roku devices. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you tap on the bell to turn on notifications so you will be the first to know when we post new content. For our listeners, the weekly video fishing forecast and other content is available on YouTube Music, a free app from Google. Search for the Fisherman Magazine podcast and add to your library. Just a reminder, in order to receive notifications and the ability to add their YouTube channel to the library, you need a Google account. Thanks for your support and watching our content.
This Saturday, August 24th, a few events to tell you about here in the Garden State. You've got the 4th annual Rock the Dock Fluke Tournament. That's on LBI. You can get details on that event at njfishingclub.com. There's a flounder tournament to support the Jimmy Mullins Memorial Scholarship Fund. That'll be held in the Great Bay, the Great Egg area. Summer flounder for you folks in North Jersey, but everybody calls them flounder down south. You can find details at the same place where the captain's meeting is this Friday. That's at Tight Lines Bait and Tackle there in Summers Point. You've got the 8th annual Play Hooky Day of Fishing for Veterans, Children with Disabilities, and Active Duty Military. That's going to be held at the Ponderosa Estates, that farm in Millstone Township. That's this Saturday. Rods and reels are provided, door prizes, and food as well. You can call Don Morantz at 908-347-1434 or Kevin Nolan, 732-504-5492. That event is listed in our calendar of events at the Fisherman Magazine. Finally, a place that's very near and dear to me and my heart, the Barnegat Municipal Docks, where I used to pedal my bike with friends so many days as a kid back in the 70s to load up on snapper blues. Well, this Saturday, August 24th, American Angler has partnered with the Barnegat Township Police Department, Barnegat Township Recreation Department, and the Association of Surf Angling Clubs. They've got a Casting with a Cop event for local youth. That too will be held on Saturday, August 24th. Low in the 60s the next few nights, sunny skies during the day, highs only in the 80s, mid to low 80s. Should be a great weekend, and hopefully you have time to get out there and enjoy it. I expect we'll be hearing more about the blowfish action, Barnegat Bay, perhaps, upper stretches of Barnegat Bay down into the Waretown Barnegat area. This is the time of year to get out with the chum pots, the high-low rigs, and catch some puppy drum. You catch those blowfish, you catch all kinds of critters. The kids can load up on spot, load them up in the live well for your late doormat approaches, and of course, the tuna love live spot. Enjoy the weekend. We'll talk again next week, especially as we go into more of the September edition that goes to print this weekend. Can't wait to tell you about it. Catch them up.